With the release of Poppy Playtime Chapter 3, we have so many questions as to what's going on in the world of Poppy Playtime. And while some of these questions were answered in the game, not all of them were. Luckily for me, I have took it upon myself to theorize and try and get the answer myself. One of the most mysterious things about Poppy Playtime Chapter 3 is Ollie. And wow, who is he? Hello everyone and welcome, my name is It's Just Jordan, welcome to the channel. Today we're talking about the identity of Ollie. So of course, if you haven't played Poppy Playtime Chapter 3 or Project Playtime for that matter, then this video is going to contain spoilers, so this is your spoiler warning. Now, with the spoilers out the way, I wouldn't be a YouTuber if I didn't ask you to hit subscribe if you enjoy Poppy Playtime content and theories, as I'm going to be covering it like mad for the next few weeks. I have so many theory video ideas that you're gonna be interested, especially if you enjoy today's video. So again, please hit subscribe. Also, my goal is to reach 100k this year. That would be awesome if you could help, and I would appreciate it massively. Anyway, shameless self-promotion out of the way, I apologise. Who is Ollie? Well, mainly we only know of Ollie through the phone on the wall. We actually know nothing about him other than the sound of him. He is a young boy and he has some type of connection to Poppy, or so we think. We don't know the depth of this connection, but we know it must be important for Poppy to be able to trust Ollie, or this friendship's a mutual agreement between them both. Perhaps they are both benefiting from this. One interesting thing is that we've actually been introduced to the phone model before with Project Playtime. Whether there is a connection there, I'm not fully certain. But if we look back at the promotional history from Project Playtime, they did mention the phone quite a bit, and they sort of meant it in the setting of, hey, this phone is super important and might be relevant later, so don't sleep on it. Perhaps Ollie was actually originally meant to be shown during Project Playtime at some point. But anyway, we're talking about Chapter 3. In Chapter 3, we are introduced to Ollie through the phone on the wall. He seems to have a visual on us, the player. This might be because he has eyes in the skies, aka the CCTV cameras. Ollie mentions that we actually look kinda lost. From this sentence, we know that Ollie has a good knowledge of the area and Playcare because, as you can tell, we are aimlessly running around, or as he can tell. Ollie says that he doesn't want us to die, so he's gonna help us. Very interesting. What's interesting about that, though, is that he mentions no link with Poppy here. It's as if he's making this choice on his own accord, which would suggest to me that Poppy doesn't have any control over Ollie, or any connection. Ollie then introduces the pipe thing on the back of the wall, showing his lack of knowledge of these tools, or how to describe them. The tube things are actually pneumatic tubes or capsule pipes, and these have been around quite a while if I'm honest, and this also then furthermore proves our point that Playtime Co. has actually been there quite a long time. Back in the old days, those tubes or capsule pipes were used mainly to transport letters and parcels between places by pressure of air and a vacuum. From this, we can deduct that Ollie must be at the centre of information within Playtime Co., because he would have to be the one physically sending these items to the player, or would he be? Once the player gets through the level and comes to the train, Ollie is taken back and asks if we've done that, referring to the damage of the train. Perhaps Ollie couldn't actually see this from the cameras which he has access to, and thus he missed the whole commotion of the train crashing. He then figures out that this is where Catnap found us, or must have been. It's at this point, Ollie knows that Poppy was the one who didn't let us leave, but then he tells us that she needs us, and we need you, the player. So interestingly, we need to help Poppy to help Ollie, and we are their goal, their mission, as he says. We're the key to helping them save lots of people, and in turn, saving ourselves. But what from? What does Ollie know? And then Ollie warns us about Catnap. After this, Ollie talks to us again about Playcare. Something interesting I found about this is the way he talks about as if he was never part of it. He refers to the orphans living there just as the kids who used to live here. But oddly enough, he's just a kid himself, or so we're thought to believe. After this, Ollie introduces you to a room under the statues and gives you your first key. He then tells you to take the door to the gas production room. The wording that Ollie uses to describe the gas production zone is also interesting, calling it the beating heart of the whole evil Playcare system. An interesting wording to say the least. So why does Ollie say that, as if we haven't seen it so far? We have no indication that he's actually lived in the system, only been watching from afar. It's clear that Ollie doesn't like the system, hence calling it evil, but he speaks as if he was just an observer, not someone who was moulded by it, if you will. Ollie then tells us about how the machine will have a few dumb safeguards for you to work around. Now, this is interesting. We know that Ollie must possess some sort of vital information, right? And we know that the gas production zone is only available to authorised staff, which is proved when we see the warning on the door. So why on earth does Ollie know about it? Furthermore, Ollie knows how to get around the safeguards. Either he is very intelligent, or he was just told the information. Ollie then informs you that someone has killed the power. Not something or some failsafe, someone. It's very clear from the audio that Ollie provides that he was distressed by this news and composes himself and then informs you of what to do next with Home Sweet Home and the fact the key will be waiting. While in Home Sweet Home, probably one of the best parts of the chapter I reckon, we have our hallucination with Nightmare Huggy. Ollie is trying to ring us and tell us you need to run. This reaffirms the idea that Ollie can see us through the CCTV, and of course, again, it explains why there are so many darted around the game. So it sounds as if he has access to the security feed, for instance, similar to the one in the ARG, possibly. It's actually quite damning as well if you think about it, because it's actually him who informed Poppy and Kissy of your situation in Home Sweet Home. As Poppy says, he's the reason we found you at all. It sounds almost as if Ollie has been planning for this meetup for a long time. After some progress is made in Chapter 3, Ollie then rings us again to tell us it seems like Poppy explained everything now. I'm starting to think that this plan isn't just Poppy's alone. He then explains about how we need to connect the backup powers to the main room to restore the power. Again, this is something I wouldn't exactly expect a child to know about, and especially in Playtime Co. After this, then Ollie refers to the playhouse in particular as yuck, and of course I don't blame him. He then informs us the best next move, and that would have been the school. Then he informs us that Catnap usually leaves that place alone. This tells us that Ollie has been keeping an eye on most of the inhabitants of Playcare. But why? Why does Ollie know that Catnap will stay away from the school, but couldn't know about Catnap finding us? Something is not adding up. While entering the school, Ollie informs us that whoever is here is not our friend. For some reason, Ollie doesn't know who is in the school. This reaffirms my suspicions that actually Ollie isn't a child, and he is for sure not been in Playcare. Also, just a quick note here in particular, we need to mention the Dog Day scene, because when Dog Day tells us that we need to get out of that area with the smiling critters, he says you and Poppy can fix this. Notice how there's no mention of Ollie, and being one of the original smiling critters, Dog Day would be well aware of the children in Playtime Co. Again, no mention of Ollie, which I find interesting, and it's starting to shed some light on who Ollie might actually be and why he's taking these actions. After this encounter, we hear from Ollie again. He says, "Hey, are you alright? No ouchies or lost body parts?" Huh? After saying that, he then lets out a more disappointed sigh rather than a relieved one. But why would he want to know if we've lost any parts of us? Parts. Interesting. Could it be that what I theorized about in Chapter 1 be true? Are we, the player, some type of toy-human hybrid? But if that's true, then why does Ollie want to know about it, or want a part of us? It's starting to come together, isn't it? Some of the little breadcrumbs are really leading towards a path where we might find the answer. But we know of one character in particular that takes parts from other toys, the prototype. After that, he then forces the words, "I'm really glad you're okay. I don't want to lose any more friends to this place." Oddly, the words sound so out of place, as if they were plucked from different parts of a sentence. It's like it's mimicking someone else. And then, in a complete 180 terms of conversation, he proudly asks if we saw the shrine and tells us that Catnap made it for the prototype. Also, something interesting is that Ollie never refers to the prototype as Experiment 1006 because he must not like to be called a number. Ollie proudly continues explaining how the prototype saved Catnap's life, and this is why he looks up to him like a god. After this, Ollie asks you to get the power level to 100%. Once this is done, he then gives you the large battery so that you can both get out of here. This is the last we will hear from Ollie, which plays out quite nicely because 1, Catnap dying, and 2, the prototype shifting focus to get Catnap's parts. So, why didn't we hear from Ollie again? I have 2 main theories about this, and of course it ties into who is Ollie. The first one, of course, is I do not trust Ollie. From his appearance to the player to his interactions and information, I think that Ollie has no clear evidence that he's even a child. There are some rather odd conversations between us and him, and awkwardness I believe, and his behaviour is unclear. But it does become clear if after all this time we've been speaking to the prototype. My theory is that Ollie is in fact the prototype, and the prototype has been using us to aid him in his mission to escape the facility, bringing havoc on the world. After he wanted the player's parts, but as he found out that wouldn't be very easy for him, so he changed course, and the death of Catnap handed that to him on a plate. He would use Catnap's components to aid him. The prototype tricked us into helping him, playing dumb, acting like a child that he's seen in the archives, a child that's been studied, interviewed, reported, recorded. This is why I feel I get the feeling his speech seems very misplaced. It's off. He's using the voice of one of the children that was reported on. And I would even take this theory a step further and claim that the actual voice we're hearing is Theodore's voice, and Ollie was his friend down here. When you connect the dots, it begins to make sense, but then it also makes sense is the prototype didn't just trick us, he also tricked Poppy into believing the same thing. As I mentioned, it seemed that after the train crash that Ollie must have interacted with Poppy for a while, or at least had a conversation before he did with us. And this is why Catnap wasn't allowed to eat you on the spot, or kill you and feed you to the critters. The prototype needed time to explain to Poppy what he really needs, and then also make it out like it would be benefiting both parties, when in fact, as we know, it only really benefited one. And of course there's also the other theory that could possibly hold a candle, but there's a lot of technical issues with this. But I wouldn't say it's too far-fetched, but of course you'll have to let me know in the comments what you think about this one in particular. I've not gone into a massive depth with this one because I think it's just a little bit too... I like the idea that Ollie is the prototype, I feel like it fits quite nicely. But the other idea, or the other theory or speculation, is that perhaps Ollie is the actual phone. Now, I know, it seems a bit silly, it seems a bit far-fetched, but, I mean, where would they stop if they could put someone in a toy? Why not objects, you know? I don't know, food for thought, but I do find that one quite interesting, but I do like the idea of the prototype more. But anyway, let me know what you think in the comments below. Let me know if you enjoy this theory. Let me know if you have any of your own. Please debunk my theory if you can with a comment. I would love to see it, just because I love to have a conversation about theories. It's always fun. And hey, if you enjoyed this video, please go ahead and hit like and subscribe, because I will be doing plenty more Poppy Playtime theories in the coming future. I've actually got, like I mentioned earlier, so many ideas. maybe we could even revisit the idea of Ollie actually being the phone, if that's something that would interest you to have someone try and prove that. But anyway, let me know what you think in the comments. Again, thank you so much for watching the video. Have a lovely morning, day or night, wherever you are in the world. Stay safe, and I'll see you all in the next Poppy Playtime theory video.